Welcome, it's the Property Talk that is brought to you by National Housing and Construction, where we delve into the issues that affect the real estate industry. Joining me on the set today and tonight is a gentleman that, of course, is in charge of running the activities of the Association of Real Estate that is in Uganda, and it's good to have you on the set, Vicent.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Now, of course, we know that AREA is an institution that, among many things, has tried to ensure that you professionalize the industry. There's a number of issues we want to quickly delve into. We are having issues to do with the commercial property owners versus the tenants as far as the rent issues are concerned, from the area of charging in dollars versus as opposed to shillings, and then the hiking of the renting. So what is your analysis and observation on what's happening here?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Edwin, and I would like to thank you very much for having put the real estate industry on the map.
Yeah.
I think your program has profiled the real estate industry to another level. And I think this helps us also to always articulate issues, yes, and also comment and analyze and see whether things are going on well or not. Now, on the issues you have raised, for example, the issues of the rent increase and going, landlords, yes, charging in dollars and so forth, I will start with the increase in rent. If you look at the commercial business below Kampala Road, the idea there is that actually you have landlords who are setting up these malls and, of course, using managers and also doing sublettings and also doing what we call goodwill. Now, all these things, if you put them in perspective, I don't know if it's the best practice of doing business in terms of real estate management. One, if you charge someone goodwill, you built up a building and some people come and just book the space on the front, and their job is just to book the space, and when you're going to look for that space, actually you're supposed to buy them out, and that's what we call goodwill. Now, if you do that, it means the tenant who has come into that place actually has gotten space on already higher cost, and they will factor that cost in their own rent. And as long as they want to sustain themselves, they will do what we call subletting. And also if they do subletting, they will also increase the rent. So at the end of the day, it may not be actually the landlord or the original landlord who is increasing the rent, but this chain of guys in between are the ones who are increasing that rent. Now, in principle, you cannot cap rent. Rent should be able to settle because of demand and supply. The X must rent at that amount. It must be left to the forces of demand and supply, and actually that should determine the business environment. If
you're just watching and you have an issue that is arcing you, bugging you, irritating you as far as real estate is concerned, let's get the conversation rolling on Property Show, NTV Property Show, and or you can get onto homex.ug on our chat room, and you can be able to share with us what your views are, or the issue that you want us to probably get a guest for and try to deal with and tackle. The rent being charged in dollars, this is not only for the commercial properties. Strangely now, even some residentials are beginning to charge rent in dollars. But where is this taking us?
No one wants dollarization of the economy. But where you have a situation whereby there is a lot of importing and less export, you cannot avoid a dominant currency to overhaul your actually inferior currency in that aspect. And that's what is happening in the real estate market. People are borrowing in dollars because dollars there is lower interest rate. And in order to match their cost of repayment, they must also charge in dollars. Otherwise, you face what we call foreign exchange exposure.
But then the unfair bit is that we Ugandans are not earning in dollars. So it means we have to go look for a forex bureau to buy dollars, which makes it more expensive.
As long as, for example, the dollar denominated credit in the market is cheaper than a shilling, but that will take time, I think. I think the government and Bank of Uganda and other Minister of Finance are watching their best to do that. But at the moment, I think it's a trend that actually we are not likely to see stopping soon.
Catherine Bamgemereire, the Land Probe Commission now on. We've seen these commissions in other sectors. Land has been the hottest issue around us. Is it going to help salvage the issue of land?
Now, I think my take on this is that first and foremost, we see government really taking serious and also bringing or assuring the public that actually the issues of land, the issues of real estate and property are vital. And indeed, I think they are right spot on. Every country that actually needs to be economically viable, land and property, actually these are the anchors for economic growth. Everything runs and operates within land and property. Land which people practice agriculture on, that government is taking it serious and wants it to be in order for the economy to run smoothly.
Okay. You recently attended the East African Real Estate Summit that was in Nairobi, Kenya. What was it intended to achieve? What did it achieve?
I saw a very good summit, and it had actually attracted 20 countries. And in Kenya, of course, when you look at the Kenyan real estate sector and Ugandan sector, real estate sector, we are actually not at balance.
Yeah.
But what I really got there is that I had a presentation about kickstarting Kampala, especially on the retail basis. So we are looking at issues of infrastructure development. We are looking at the issues of how the population growth will play in terms of the need and supply for housing. We are looking at the opportunities and actually available financing options in the industry. Now, my learning from there was that actually, if you look at Kenya and Rwanda, they were already at a more speed than us, because the idea is there, if you go to Kenya, you see a lot of really big-time investors putting up and opening up estates and finishing them on time.
Yes.
If the government actually does their part, and in talk and in action, you will see private sector players following. I think that's what is happening in Kigali. If they say we are going to do zoning from public side,
yes,
this place is for industries, this place is for residential, this place is, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yes, you can have the private sector playing, but the goodwill of the government in Kigali, we see it's moving a lot of things.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's the key. Government must be ahead.
So what were some of the other resolutions moving forward that came out of that summit?
Now, in that summit, we resolved and said, look, for kickstarting these cities and having them as how they should be in terms of housing and accommodating the citizens of those cities, and also being able to be vibrant enough to allow business to operate, we must engage the policymakers. For example, in Uganda, when you look at the whole thing, the physical planning of policy, there is a physical planning act, and it actually even decides and agrees on the minimum plot which we should be having.
But is that one functional?
Is it being implemented? So you find a lot of these policies in place, but the implementation is the issue. So our job, I think, as players, is not to shy away and do our business and forget the issue of actually engaging these, because you have to run a business, but you have to actually make sure that the play field is clean.
Yes.
So we resolved and said, look, in the next, for example, summits, the next conferences in different countries, we must ensure that actually policymakers attend those conferences, because that's the only way they will understand that we private sectors, we have our own issues, and if we can partner and integrate them, then they see where business is going.
All right, it looks like our conversation will not end here. There's quite so many other issues we need to touch. I bet you and I promise you that this conversation will continue next week.